Have you ever driven by a Valvoline or one of those quick lube places and wondered, how much money do they make? They're infamous for you sitting in there in your car while doing the oil change, and then they show you your filter and they try to upsell you on something, right? Infamous for that. But in this video, we're gonna talk about how much do these Valvoline locations actually make? How much do they cost to get open? And are they actually a good investment? So let's dive into that in this video. If you're new here, my name is Tarek Johnson. I am the CEO and founder of Franchise Empire, where we have helped hundreds of individuals find, vet, buy, and launch proven money-making franchises. And so we're gonna dive into Valvoline. We're gonna dive into how much money they make each location. We'll talk about the averages, the highs, the lows, etc. Royalty fees, how much they cost to get open. But before we dive into the numbers, let's talk about how they actually got started, because their backstory is pretty interesting and there's a nugget in there for you. Well, there was, at least for me, so I think it'll be a nugget for you as well. So Valvoline's story began back in 1866. Guys, that's crazy. That's not 1966. That's 1866, when Dr. John Ellis created the world's first petroleum-based lubricant, right? Oil, laying the foundation for a brand that's been tied to engines for now 150 years. And by the early 1900s, they became a household name because they had been chosen by Ford and used as the only motor oil for the Model T. And if you wondered where, Tesla came up with the Model Y and all that stuff, they mimicked it from Ford, because that's how Ford got started. I don't know if you guys knew that. And so the brand quickly built a reputation in racing, with their Valvoline lubricated cars winning some of the earliest American races and becoming a trusted name in motorsports. So they were able to use their success in racing to really establish themselves as the leader in that space. And so in 1986, this is where they made a really bold and powerful decision. 1986, Valvoline decided to not just become an oil manufacturer, they decided to move into retail. And so they acquired Rapid Oil Change, and this introduced the stay in your car quick lube model that made oil changes faster and more convenient. So think about that for a second. They could have just played it safe and remained an oil company, but they decided to acquire another company to really 10x their business. I was just talking about this concept of acquiring like businesses, using this 10x mentality. How else can you continue to grow your business? Well, you can acquire other like businesses and roll it into your business model. Probably one of their quickest ways to grow, rather than trying to just spend more money on marketing, right? And so just 2 years later, in 1988, Valvoline, having that retail model, launched its franchising arm. And in 1989, the first franchise location opened. And here's an interesting note. Henley Enterprises, founded by Don and Ralph Henley, opened the first Valvoline instant oil change franchise back in 1989. And today, Henley has grown into Valvoline's largest franchisee. Can you guess how many franchise locations they own? They own over 200 centers across multiple states. That's pretty crazy. Think about that, 200 locations. What I found fascinating, as I was preparing to record this video, is that Valvoline is doubling down on the future. You may think we got all of these electric cars coming out, right? And so these quick lube places are gonna be out of business. Well, Valvoline is investing in fluids designed for electric and hybrid vehicles while continuing to grow its retail service franchise footprint. Pretty fascinating. Now, in terms of how many locations do they have available, and then we'll dive into their costs and their sales. They have over 2,000 locations nationwide, which is wild. Think about that, 2,000 locations. Now, here's a question for you, pop quiz. If you win, we will send you a Franchise Empire coffee cup. If you win it, we will send you, coffee, beer, whatever it is that you want to put in here, the beverage of your choice to keep cold or hot. Before the discovery of petroleum-based motor oil, what was used to keep complex machines moving? Guys, I don't even know the answer to this. We're gonna find it. We're gonna find out together. But if you do know the answer, take a guess. Let us know in the comments below. Do not cheat, please. Karma is a all right. Either way, if you get it right, we'll pick someone who gets it right, and we'll send you one of those. All right, in terms of startup cost, the estimated total investment is between $192,000 to $3.4 million per service center. That's what they call their locations. And if the property is leased and the signage is leased, it's between $192,000 to $639,000. If you actually buy the property and build the building on top of the property that you now own and the signage is purchased, it's between $1.7 million to $3.4 million. You would ask, like, what's the benefit to that? Well, you could at some time sell the business, but you still own the land and the building, and the person you sell it to, not only are you selling the actual business and the franchise location for a multiple of its earnings or income, but then they're paying you rent because you still own the property. It's a common strategy with like childcare centers, daycare centers, and a lot of franchises that require like buildings where you can actually like acquire the land. So it's a pretty interesting strategy overall, and it's very common in the automotive space. You'll often see a lot of mom and pop shop as well as franchise automotive shops that actually own the land, and in some cases they'll go to sell their business. The business actually isn't worth much money because it's actually not that profitable, but the land and the price of the land and the building have appreciated significantly. So it's definitely a way to hedge your bets if the numbers make sense. Nowadays, everything's freaking expensive. To go buy some land, it might be hard to make the numbers work with the cost of real estate. Now, in terms of royalties, for the first 12 months, here's what's interesting. For the first 12 months of the initial term, 2% of adjusted gross revenue. And then for the second 12 months of that initial franchise term, 3%. And then it goes to 6% or a graduated royalty rate between 4 and 6%, depending on your sales. For marketing costs, you must spend at least 3% of your revenue on local advertising. So that only benefits you. Advertising is an investment, right? You don't look at it as an expense because the idea is it's going to create a return on investment for you. That's the way to think about marketing and advertising. By the way, if you find this breakdown helpful and you're thinking, hey, I'm really interested in kind of the idea of franchising in general, and I don't have a couple $1 million to invest in a Valvoline franchise, well, we have a free gift for you, and that is our 5 low-cost franchises that all make $1 million. It's a PDF and video breakdown of those 5 franchises showing that they're low-cost franchise opportunities. Most of them are $250,000 and less to get up and open, and they show verifiable sales of their franchisees producing over $1 million in sales. You can click the link down below, or you can go to franchiseempire.com/low cost to get that. All right, so let's talk about sales, right? How much do these locations make? Well, in 2024, Valvoline, the average center, did $1.7 million in sales. That's representative of 819 service centers, which is what they call them. And the lowest service center did $76,881 in sales. I can't imagine that person's going to be in business for much longer with $76,000 in sales. Their average ticket was $77. So low performing location, low average ticket. The average center that does 1.7 million in sales, their average ticket is $115, guys. But check this out. The highest performing location does $5.5 million in sales, and their average ticket is $171. That is pretty impressive. And they actually show us in here, we'll show you a screenshot of the numbers here. What you can see by looking at it is that the lowest performing center only does 2 oil changes per day, that's pretty rough. The average center does 50 oil changes per day, and the highest performing location that does $5.5 million in sales, 136 oil changes per day. That is quite impressive, ladies and gentlemen. Now, going back to the trivia so that you can win this pretty cool Franchise Empire and Franchise Millionaire mug, if you guessed animal fat, you guessed right. I never would have guessed animal fat. That's very interesting. So before petroleum-based motor oil was invented, they used animal fat to keep engines and machines running pretty wild to think that's how far that they've come. So, but the question really becomes like, hey, is this franchise a good investment? Well, now that you know the numbers, you know the average ticket, I'm going to leave that to you to answer that question. I can tell you that generally with any retail locations, we want to see a 2-to-1 sales to investment ratio, meaning you basically want to see that it costs half the amount of your average sales to get the location up and open. Clearly, it depends a lot on if you're buying the real estate or if you're leasing the real estate here. But for 1.7 million in average sales, I'd basically not want to spend more than about $850,000, $900,000 to get up and open. Of course, you can be one of the higher performing locations that potentially does 3-4 million, so on and so forth. But if you like these videos and you think they're interesting and you want to watch more of these videos of the largest franchises that you see everywhere around you, and you want to know how much money do they make, how much do they cost to get open, and are they a good investment, then you can watch this playlist right here where we break down dozens of other franchise names that are household names that you see every single day. We'll look forward to seeing you there. Make sure to subscribe before you go, and we'll see you on the next one.